We're continuing J horror this week with Ju-on, The Grudge, directed by Takahashi Shimizu, and came out on October 18th, 2002. Gene, what are your initial thoughts? I heard a story that you had some trouble on a couch.
Well, yeah. Roger, I just have to say I'm not a fan. But hey, on some level, it worked on some level, and I'll tell you, it's like I've been sleeping on the couch a lot lately. I'm married, and our marriage is fine. We're doing great. It's my wife's just been really sick, is coughing. I think she caught the flu. So she's in the bedroom with the respirator going and just coughing like crazy. So I'm just like, I'm not hanging around that. So I've been sleeping on the couch, and so I mean, bless my wife, yeah, we all get sick, right? But she's just starting to feel a lot better. But I watched you on later this week, or earlier this week, I should say, and then I was just sleeping on the couch, and then I don't know, went to sleep, and then halfway through the night, I don't know, 2, 3 in the morning, it's early. My kid is like shaking me. He says, Dad, are you okay? Are you all right? He has a really concerned look on his face. And I was like, what? I'm okay. He said, Dad, you were like screaming. You were like having a really bad dream. And I was like, oh, yeah, that dream wasn't a very good dream. Oh, yeah, sorry, apologize. And, so just, we talked about it a little bit, I guess. And yeah, and then, so I guess on some level, the Ju-on affected me because I had a really bad dream. It woke my kid up. And
Well, and
from our couch to his room is not a tiny distance, and he always closes his door, and he heard me through that. So,
Yeah. Well, and
so
could it
I
have,
don't know, something worked, I guess.
could it have been because the movie was so bad in your mind that it's like, why am I subjecting myself to these?
I don't know, There's shadowy images and stuff, and yeah, I don't know. On some level, a horror movie should. It should scare you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it should definitely grab your interest. It should hold your interest. Things that are scary. What's the idea of scary? It raises your heartbeat. You got adrenaline flowing, maybe a flight. I'm comfortable. It's just like you maybe relate to that character, and you kind of maybe doubt your decisions, or I don't know. It just kind of affects you. But Ju-on didn't affect me. I didn't feel that visceral reaction. I'm just kind of watching it and trying to figure it out. It's more like an intellectual exercise. The movie jumps back and forth in time. It's not linear storytelling at all. But you got to really pay attention, and then towards the end, I really just got the sense of that I wasn't scared, but I just really felt sorry for there was a murder victim, a woman, and I just really felt sorry for her. And at the end, she was just really intensely pathetic, And so I guess I had the bad dream, so it affected me. But I didn't have those scary, visceral reactions that I just mentioned. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But what do you think, Roger?
Well, and of course, once again, welcome to Gene and Roger Talk
Yes.
Movies, where Gene doesn't like it, and of course, I do like
Yeah,
it.
you love it, probably.
I
Yeah.
actually do love this film, and
Gosh,
part
dear
of
Lord.
part of part of the reason is, it is like this well constructed film. We don't often see non-linear structured horror films, and part of this film is kind of the mystery, because the film starts out with this husband murdering his wife.
Yep.
And there's a small child there as well.
The cat.
And then
The
there's
cat.
the
The
cat.
kid watches it.
Cat that he also murders. The kid sees
Kid
all of this happening.
Kills the cat.
And
Why
then
did he kill the cat?
Why?
What did the cat do to him?
Yeah, I don't know.
Poor
but
kitty.
the cat gets to come back as a ghost
Yes,
later.
the cat comes back. Yes.
And I just like how part of this film is this mystery heightened by the non-linear structure, because you'll be introduced to a character, and then you'll go back in time with that same character, or in one case, forward in time with a character. And at the end, it all kind of allows you to piece out the entire thing, because initially your sympathy lays with this woman who has been killed. But as the movie goes, you get information that oh, well, now I understand maybe why this husband went off his rocker and killed her, because you discover that, oh, she was cheating on him and this son is actually not his, and it
Right.
just pushes him over the edge. And so you end up with this this like rage, this living in this house, right? The ghost cannot rest. And so it is in this house, and it's kind of infecting anyone else who comes in there. And it's very traditional in the Japanese culture. You have the yureis, which are these ghosts that cannot progress to the afterlife because of this unfinished business or this traumatic thing that has occurred. And so a lot of these J horror movies are about the mystery of trying to figure out, what do we need to do now that we've been possessed or we're getting haunted by these things? What do we need to do to put this soul back to rest? And so I really do like this movie a lot.
Yeah, of course, at the end, they don't put the soul to rest.
Right.
No, she is not happy. She stays pathetic and sad. And yeah, at the end, she's reaching out for another victim. And she's just really kind of like worthy of your pity, because she just seems like she's in want of like maybe a companionship or understanding. I don't get a sense of rage from the woman that was killed, Kakio. But yeah, and she's the main perpetrator.
Mm-hmm.
She kills a lot of the victims, and but again, going to the sense of like horror, it increases your blood rate, increases your heart rate, like that. This movie doesn't happen. Like in one scene where this a sister of one of the first people who dies, she herself, she visits the house, and it's like the spirit inhabits the house, not really necessarily it is in the people, but it's house specific. So if you go into the house, that means you very well can catch it.
Yeah.
And so the sister goes in there, and she catches it, and she goes back to her apartment, some of the high rise. But just a lot of it, I think maybe they're trying to build suspense or something. But like there's this one scene where the sister, Hotemi, she's going up an elevator, right? And then the elevator has some windows, and the walls, the doors on the floors have windows too. So as you're going up, you can see into each floor. And so she's on the 7th floor, 702, whatever. And then like she passes the 2nd floor, and you see this kid through the window.
Yeah.
Or is it Toshio?
Sure.
I think
I thought
Toshio.
was it okay?
Whatever.
The creepy kid.
The creepy kid. but I don't think it's that creepy. Anyway, you see him through the window, floor 2. Elevator's going up. There's a motion. You see him, floor 3. Going up again, floor 4. Going up again, floor 5. And it's just kind of funny. It's not scary. It's not scary at all. And then she dies, and she's like, I think part of it maybe the sister, she gets really scared. She turns on the TV. She's in her house and her apartment, and she gets really scared. So she turns on the TV. The TV starts to distort, make weird noises, and she puts the blanket over her. And I get the sense that what the producers or directors of this movie are trying to sense is that usually when we go to bed, late at night, we're tired, we get under our blankets. Usually that is like a very restful, calm place for us. We fall asleep, and we're asleep, we're super vulnerable, but that is like a safe place for us, right? But she goes she's in her bed, she puts the blankets over her, but then the spirit of this woman comes under her blankets, and then she notices something. Oh, something's in my bed. And she lifts up the blanket, and there's this woman. She's right there, like right there on like under the blanket on her. And so she has no safety. There's no protection for her. So maybe they're trying to convey that that's kind of scary, but it wasn't scary, Roger.
Well, and Gene, that might be because you're into the realm of having seen a lot of horror movies now.
Yeah.
But I think this is a film that does set up the scare as well. I do think there's a large number of people that would see that elevator scene and be like, whoa, that is kind of creepy. How is this kid on every single level? And I also
But he's looking out and he's got this little weird little expression.
well, and that's kind of the way his
It's not like-
character. It was because the thought, I think, is that he witnessed this murder. He
Yeah.
witnessed his mother getting
Mother
murdered.
getting
He
killed.
witnessed the cat getting killed, and then he was the last one to die, more than likely. So
Yeah.
he has got that additional s- possession going on there, and so because a lot of his scenes are he just looks. There was a great scene at the beginning when the social worker is heading back up the stairs, and there he is, but then he looks towards where the mother is.
Yeah,
because
in a different
that's-
part of the house.
Right, and then that causes that social worker to go into that other part of the house where then Keiko is there finishing that mother off, basically. And so he's like this watcher kind of character where I'm watching. I know you're the next victim. I'm watching. I've got to watch what happens. That's kind of his role in the afterlife of this unrest that his spirit has. And I think, the J-horror, right, they're always big, especially ghost stories. They're always big on the pasty face and the long
kid
black
had-
hair and the black dark eyes and the white gowns.
Yeah,
and
the kid had this like
stuff like
white
that.
powdery makeup all
Mhm.
over him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I do think, obviously people like you and I that have seen lots and lots of horror movies, I look at this more as, this is more of a mystery. You're kind of, because of the nonlinear structure, you're getting information in bits and pieces as to
Yeah,
what goes on.
yeah.
Because you don't know until later that the Keiko actually was killed by her husband because she had fathered this child with some other man and was trying to have the husband was completely confused by that and just rage with that. So it's
Right.
I like how it does that. And so for a seasoned horror film fan, is it scary? No, of course it's not. But is the mystery there and the nonlinear structure there to really keep your interest? My opinion, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Then is it really horror? It's a mystery movie. I mean, I could watch a mystery movie. I mean, we're going to watch the sequel to Knives Out soon. There's going to be a mystery.
We're not doing that on the show.
We're not going to review this movie on the and there's going to be mystery. Somebody's going to die. We know this, like in the first Knives Out. And this whole mystery, we're figuring it out and all this, and it's cool. And then there's the character, every time she lies, she throws up, which is such a great thing. But yeah, but it's not horror. But certainly this... On some, yeah. I mean, but I don't know. Maybe I'm the jaded Westerner. Maybe I'm not giving them the movie. I don't know. It's hard to review for me personally because it really demanded that you really pay attention. You pay attention to the characters' names. You really try to watch what's happening because the linear the non-sequential, let me say it that way, the non-sequential way of this movie, you got to really pay attention to what's happening. The characters appear, then they disappear, then they reappear. So you kind of have to put together in your own mind the actual sequence. So which can be tough, So I actually watched the movie twice. So I took some notes, and it's easy to miss parts, and you got to really pay attention.
Yeah, you
Which
do.
This can be kind of tough.
Well, and I think, to back up your point a little bit, obviously we demand that all of our viewers, our listeners, watch these films in their original language. So that's an additional potential barrier for people to really follow this film because you have to read what the dialogue is and then also kind of keep on track with the dramatic shifts in time, the nonlinear structure. But I will point out, too, I think an American audience, you either kind of get in the mood with the J-horror or you're just kind of stuck in the American stuff. J-horror is not about jump scares, or when they do a jump scare,
They do have jump scares. I thought they had jump scares.
It's not accompanied by big, booming, stinger soundtrack stuff. It is something as simple as, like at the beginning where she removes the tape from the door and she opens the sliding door because she hears a cat in there, and one of the other characters has taped the cat in there because, of course, ghost cat. But she sees the cat, and then the camera slides to the side, and then you see Toshiro, or whatever the kid's name is,
Toshio.
Toshio, just sitting there. And there's no big dana dana or anything like that, and she's not like screaming or anything like that. It's just this really subtle thing, but it's weird. It's out of place. It's different, and a lot of J horror, I think, I'm gonna say respects the audience more. Where I don't have to tell you that this is a scary thing or an unsettling thing. I can just show it without having all of this, bombastic music stingers. Or
Yeah,
things
yeah.
like that.
A lot of like jump scares. I just hate them.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're just put in for a little to kind of like startle you.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a surprise. But it's not scary. It's just a surprise.
Right, it's a jolt.
Yeah, it's a jolt. Yeah. Yeah, and this movie's much more subtle. Like there's this social worker, Rita, towards the end of the movie. She's in her bed and she just kind of has a feeling that she's not alone, and she looks around. Well, then all of a sudden, this murderer woman, she's right above her bed, But she kind of clues us to that somebody else is around, and whereas clearly the room was empty at the beginning. But yeah, it's just more subtle for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the other thing that we should point out is the ghost cat, because there is the great scene there where there's a whole bunch of cats that show up at her
Again,
house.
Rita, she's in her. I don't know if she's in her room, but no, she's in her room.
Yeah.
But then she just has this dream, and all of a sudden her room is filled with black
cats.
black cats. It's so cheesy. Because you can just tell, like, a lot of those cats are just like ceramic little things.
Right, they only had like 5 cats.
Yeah,
and
they had like 30 cats in there, but only like five of them were real. You could just tell.
Yeah.
It's like, come on.
It's low budget filmmaking at its finest, I guess. But I also want to point out too, the Ju-on does have that creepy ghost noise that J horror is all about. There's no way I can recreate it for you.
Yeah, that's probably the best part of the movie was she starts appearing where she's crawling, face down, but her head is contorted in a weird angle, but she's crawling and it's just covered with blood. So it's like her spirit, like right after she was, killed, and she's making this really weird, demonic kind of clicking noise, and that's kind of creepy.
Yeah,
that's kind of creepy.
Staple of J horror. We've talked about staples of slasher movies. Your staple of J horror ghost movies is you're always going to hear that clicking ghost noise.
Okay. That ghost noise is there for sure.
Definitely unsettling. And I also want to point out too, one of the interesting things about this film is the house is just, there's trash all over the place in this house. And initially you think, oh, well, it's because this woman with dementia lives there and she can't take care of herself. But really it's because this little kid ghost is running through that house unfettered, just trashing the place all the time. And that kind of dishevelment of the house is contrary to like what you would expect to see from an Asian household, right?
Right, clean and tidy.
Where it's
right.
clean,
it's,
and then
it's
that
a mess.
Later on in the film, that even expands out into the community at large, where the streets are kind of got trash going around and things like that, and
or they're just empty.
Or they're empty as
the
well.
The streets are empty because
so
people they're dead.
Yeah, and it's just a really interesting film, and I just really appreciate the care this director took, because doing a non-linear structure in your film is not easy, which is why you don't see it too often. I mean, the most obvious example is like Christopher Nolan's Memento, which was a non-linear.
Yeah, Memento's tough to follow. Yeah,
but you don't see it too often in a horror film, and when you are fortunate enough to see one that's in the hands of a quality director, you get some good results.
Yeah, I would say, watch this movie. Be prepared, though. It's not going to be like a super scary, but I think it's a little bit of a challenge, to watch it and to kind of figure out all these things that are happening. And certainly like here in the show, like we've gone over a lot, but there's still a lot there.
Oh, yeah.
So go and watch it. Be prepared. Really pay attention to the characters' names. Watch the timelines. Be aware it's definitely not sequential on any level.
That is true. And I
But
would,
give it a shot. It's me walk away from this, really liking it.
well, and I will say, I know some of our viewers are not big time horror film fans, and I will say to those of you, and if you choose to watch this, you will probably be creeped out a little bit, because there's some definitely creepy images going on, and with that, again, nonlinear structure, it can get you.
Yeah.
Gene, we're getting jaded, right?
Yeah, the creepy woman's crawling towards you. Just run out of the building. But no, they fall down. They're immobilized. They can't move, but they're scared. And
Well, but I think
creature
also
gets 'em.
there is the sequence, right? One of the other interesting things this film does is there's two police officers that are investigating this
Yep,
situation.
yep.
And they both end up at the same time encountering Kayako, and they are paralyzed with fear.
Yeah, I
and
think
you
somehow
don't,
she looks at you
yeah.
with those eyes and maybe it immobilizes you or something.
But I think that part of the film too was no, it's not. It's not a quote unquote helpless woman who's getting killed. No, these are cops, right? Big old, we're macho and stuff.
Yeah,
And
they're
nope,
cops.
They get taken out. So you don't usually see, male characters, screaming like little children, right?
Yeah.
And so that
Well, they're scared.
That was good, but the director Takashi Shimizu, he would go on to direct the American remake of this, which is a rarity. Sam Raimi, who we all know and love from, we all know and love him from the Evil Dead movies, of course, but more famously known for the original sequence of Spider-Man films. He decided to do a remake of this because he has this movie in his top 10 greatest horror films of all time. He decided to do a remake. He asked the original director, hey, you want to come over to America and direct my remake? And the dude said, yeah, let's do that. So
Yeah.
the American remake I will talk about for just a minute.
We're not doing comparison contrast
No.
like the Ring.
The only, there are differences, of course, but the only real drawback to the American remake is Sarah Michelle Gellar is in it, and she is not a very good lead in that film. But if you want an American version of this because you just refuse to watch subtitles or whatever, it basically gives you the same type of story. It is also nonlinear, and the director himself had said the reason that I wanted to do the American remake is I could fix some of the narrative problems that maybe I had in the first one. Although
so SMG plays which role is she in the American version?
Well,
is she Rita or
yeah,
she's Rita,
but they changed her character up, so she's like a university student and.
You can almost say Rita's almost like a. Well,
Yeah.
they are. She is a student because she's studying and she has to earn, like, education credits.
Yeah,
because there's a talk with her friend in a restaurant.
It's different. There's a lot of differences.
And then she sees a little boy under the table. She yells.
Yeah, there's differences. It's easier to follow the American version. Is it because it's all in English and you don't have to pay so much attention? I don't know. And some of the explanations are a little more, yep, here it is. We're spelling it out for you right now. You don't have to piece things together as much.
Sure.
But, the original, I'm taking it all the time over the American remake. Gene, any final thoughts on Ju-on the Grudge?
Yeah. Let's not be movie snobs though. Like, it's Japanese. That means it's better. Flat out all the time. No, come on. I mean, give it a shot. Beware. You're gonna have to pay attention. But give it a shot. You may really like it.
Yeah, I agree more than Gene. I think you definitely, if you have never seen this film, you absolutely should. And hopefully you will find it as interesting as I did. I've seen it quite a few times.
Okay.
But
twice
Gene,
for me, and it won't be a third.
Right. Yeah. Well, and yeah, you gave it as much a shot as you could possibly do. Right. You watched it twice. So.
But I am a SMG fan, so maybe I'll check out the Grudge.
Well, go ahead. Then I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that before. But
maybe if some night in the future, it's super cold. Yeah, nothing else to do.
And so
Yeah,
next,
the
Gene,
wife's still sick.
next
We're just
week, are
watching.
we truly traveling down the J horror road of Audition, or are we doing a different film?
Oh no, let's go audition. Yeah, let's
Okay.
go that route.
So for those of you who've made it this far on this week's podcast, go out, watch Audition, so you can join us next week while we talk about it, because we will be dissecting it. If you have never seen Audition before, do not look up anything about what it is. Put it in and watch it, and
Just watch it cold.
watch it cold, because the less you know about that film, the better. And yes, you do have the right movie, even though it may seem like a quirky romantic movie at the beginning. You've got the right one. So I'm excited to hear what
Okay.
Gene has to say about Audition.
Audition. I'm a little scared already.
And so,
It starts off as a rom-com.
well, I'm not
Yeah.
saying a rom-com, but it definitely
Okay.
lays down, hey, this is our movie, and then it goes in a completely different direction.
Roger, if Hugh Grant appears in it, I'm done.
Right.
Done.
That actually, I would not mind that, actually, but we'll talk more about that when you see the whole film.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's all we've got. We will catch you next week with Audition. Bye-bye.
Later.